Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Welcome to Accelerated Health TV and Radio Show. I'm your host, Sara Banta. I'm a health coach, natural supplement expert, and a busy mom of 3. Make sure you hit the subscribe button below so you're notified every week with my new podcast on Mondays and Tuesdays and Thursdays. And if you haven't already, join my free group coaching on Telegram with the link below. There is no downside. I know all of this can be so overwhelming. So a daily dose of knowledge and questions answered are going to keep you moving forward and keeping it not so overwhelming. So you will be a part of a like-minded group to support you on your journey, and you are going to take control of your health. My goal, I need your help, is to reach everyone on earth with eyes to see and ears to hear my message of healing. So help me with that goal. Share this podcast with a few of your friends who may need my help. I am so excited. I've got one of my favorite people back on, Debra Atkinson. We are talking about the obstacles hindering women over 40 from their fitness results. And she coaches clients in the areas of wellness, personal relationships, academic choices, career moves. But what I love about her is she's teaching us what to do in the gym or in our home gym and making it easy for us women that aren't so young anymore. So welcome, Debra. How are you today?
Hey, so glad to be here and see you again.
I'm super excited. We've got a lot to talk about. We are going to be talking about why aren't we getting results? And it's so interesting that we're talking about this today because I had an influx of questions in my group and on email. Sara, I'm eating right. I'm doing everything. I'm at the gym. I've gained 20 pounds in the last couple of years. I've never had a weight problem. What is going on? And I'm doing all the right things. So I want to talk about just what is causing this like hang up with all of us, right?
Yeah.
You hear of it all the time. Well, if I binge ate over the holidays, I used to do this, and this for the next 2 weeks, and I get right back on track, and those things aren't working anymore. So what is going on?
Exactly. It's funny that I actually just got off a call with a woman who said, I was bodybuilding, I was a triathlete, I did this and I did that. And it was just like you said, I hit that wall and nothing would work. And I think there's twofold. It's one, those who are very ambitious and have been always active and suddenly they hit the wall because all their bag of tricks is not the thing. And there's people who maybe didn't think they ever needed to do that and got away with looking and feeling the way they wanted to. And everybody ends up at the same spot. In menopause, the rules changed. So, one, there's two things to unpack in what you said. I think in the voice of a woman who's not getting results, it's one, when we say we're doing all the things, I think we really have to unpack, are you doing the things that really a woman in midlife with her hormones should be doing? Because we may be doing what we were taught and what we did in our 20s and 30s that worked. If those are the things, first we need to get schooled on there's a new way to do it with the hormones that are, this is your profile now, so that you can have greater success and feel good while you're doing it. So nobody's going to feel miserable while they're exercising and get to the other end feeling good. We should feel good doing. So there's that. And I think, a lot of women here were raised by parents of the war era, and you work hard and you get good results. And we just took that lesson a little too well. And I think we do. We try to push through. We try to push through. We do the discipline. When we get motivated, we willpower our way through. And we're potentially willpowering and disciplining our way to some adrenal issues that are going to be the roadblock to getting where you really want to go.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm so glad we're talking about
Yeah.
adrenals because it's even changed in the last 4 years for women in menopause with their adrenals because of this amazing thing that we talked about before we got on, the
Yeah.
spike protein.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to throw this in. So
Yeah.
this spike protein is around all of us. I don't care who you are, unless you are in an igloo in what is it? You know,
And Antarctica. Yeah.
Antarctica. It's somewhere around nobody, right? I mean,
Right.
I work from home. I'm a homebody. I even send my kids to go doing the marketing. But I'm even exposed to the spike protein when you're around, and you don't have to be around someone that is actually actively sick with the virus. They could just be shedding upon you, and there is science and proof of this. But what is happening is it's causing a disruption in the liver. But what we're also seeing is that the adrenals are becoming more depleted at an excessively fast rate,
Mm.
much faster than 5 years ago. So if you were a woman in menopause 5 years ago, you would have had better adrenal health than today. And that is why personally, I take an adrenal glandular called adrenaline every single day to support my adrenals. Now, that all being said, we are super women. And I actually had
Mm.
someone tell me the other day, Sarah, I don't know how you do it. You have dinner on the table every night, you work out, you own your own business, you have 3 kids, you keep them all stable, and you're married, and you've got to keep up a marriage and all of this stuff. I'm like, yeah, you're right. How do I do it? But us women wear all of these hats,
Right.
and we're not meant to just go, go, go. We have to support our body, our battery packs, our adrenals. So it will backfire.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think then one of the lessons that we also got taught, I remember distinctly, I can see where I was sitting in the classroom and I can see the lecturer at that time, energy creates energy. And every physiology major who got taught that, every wannabe fitness instructor, goes out and spews this to people. And we've written it and you've read it. Energy creates energy. And so you're thinking I should push through and I need to exercise if I don't have any energy. And the truth is, sometimes we just need to rest. When we don't have the energy, we really do need to listen to our bodies and trust it again. And as women, right, pre COVID, even, we needed to make sure we were paying attention to the signs and the signals and resting when we needed to rest. Never has that been more important than when a woman hits perimenopause, because that roller coaster going up and down means you are more likely to experience some lulls and highs and lows, but trending downward. And then when you really hit menopause, your hormones are bottoming out unless you're already replacing, by the way. So don't want to forget those of you who are being proactive and doing something about it. But for any of us choosing never to do that, it's important that you tune into the fact that pushing through is not great for our adrenals. And we have to look at exercise as also stress. So, though we want to do calculated stress and put ourselves in calculated positions, people are talking about cold plunges now or talking about sauna use more than we ever have. Great, both cases potentially for the right person at the right time, and yet there's stress. So lots of things we're imposing on purpose can be good for you in really small doses. But when life stressors are really up high or your hormonal stressors are really up high, that's when you got to pull back on the things that you can control and say, okay, maybe exercise today needs to be on the lighter side in order to balance that, because optimal levels of stress and resilience make you fit.
So what we need to remember is our ancestors would run to get their kill,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
They didn't run for a marathon. They
Mhm.
ran to get their kill, and then they rested,
Mhm.
and they restored.
Mhm.
Just personally, I'm very in tune with my body, and your adrenals sit on top of your kidneys. So when your adrenals are overworked, your kidneys have to inflame and retain water to hold up the adrenals. So here I am overworking myself,
Mm,
retaining a ton of water because my
mm,
kidneys aren't releasing it. So that is a survival mechanism. We have to think that our brains want to keep us alive, right? So if we are totally stressed out from family, aging parents, we're sandwiched into the kids, the adult kids. I
right.
always say little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems, right? And then you've got your parents. And so we've got all of this stuff going on in our lives. And then we say, I'm so tired, but I got to go work out. Well, that extra layer of stress is ramping up that cortisol. Cortisol is not, your body doesn't know if you're being chased by a tiger
Mhm.
or if you are just working out too hard. And so it's going to put this nice layer of fat around your expensive organs that it wants to keep safe. The liver, the kidneys, the belly, the gut. And so that extra layer is cortisol fat, right?
Mhm.
And
So
so
true.
here we are midlife. We're trying to work out like we did in our 20s and 30s. And we're just getting fatter and we don't know why. And then we lower our caloric intake, right? Because that's what you do. You
Right.
lower your caloric intake, you increase the exercise, just like the doctor says.
Yep.
And that's just an additional stress. And what's interesting about Debra, over the last month or so, I was suffering from a little nausea. My it was keeping me from eating as much as I needed to eat. I did my liver flush, the nausea went away, great. And my metabolism went up. Well, then I tried to increase my caloric intake to help with putting some weight back on. But was so interesting is my body said, "Oh, I'm getting tons of calories now. I'll actually rev up my metabolism,"
Mhm.
because your brain is smart, right? So if you're
Mhm.
going to lower the calories, your body's going to lower your metabolic rate,
Yeah.
going to increase that reverse T3, the stress hormones, pack on the pounds, lower the metabolic rate, and you're just digging yourself into a hole. And then
Yeah.
you feel bad.
Yeah, right, and you have no energy really to use toward exercise. It still feels hard, but if you track yourself over time, you will find you're probably not going as fast or on as high an incline at a same heart rate. Your perceived exertion is greater, but it feeling hard and it actually being a great performance, you actually getting the work done that you're capable of doing, are two different things. I think we see that a lot in women who are maybe trying to exercise in a fasted state where they're already in adrenal fatigue as well. None of that really bears well on you. We want to have the energy, but I think the gold statement that you made is if you eat less, you're messaging and signaling your body to burn less. You eat more, you're signaling your body to burn more. And that is for some reason not intuitive to us. Right.
Right. And it brings up the hot topic of intermittent fasting,
Yeah.
because that is a hormetic stressor. But if your body is already stressed, that's just
Yeah.
maybe a little too much.
Yeah.
And is it good to intermittent fast to lower insulin resistance for a short period of time or intermittently? Sure, if you're in a
Mhm.
good spot, but don't do it long term. Don't get
Mhm.
down to one meal a day every single day, because guess what your body's going to do? Oh,
Mhm.
she's only going to feed me one time a day. I'm going to lower down my metabolic rate,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, store it, save it for a rainy day, and doesn't trust, that you're actually going to feed it. And I think, we can unpack this a little bit more if you want to. And I am not anti intermittent fasting. And
No,
so I don't want to come off that way. I think it's got a time and a place. I like to make sure any woman that I'm working with has a good relationship with food in the first place, because the mistake that I see women make is the intermittent fasting, first of all, gets to be I do the same thing every day, and that's my routine. So we need a little bit more metabolic flexibility. But also, then in the feeding window, you're still restricting. And that's counterproductive to the whole idea of it's just about shortening the window. We still need to eat well and fuel ourselves.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
just becoming more in tune with your body. What
Yeah.
is your body asking for? If you wake up and you're tired, see, every morning I work out, but what does that mean? That means I put on my running shoes and I might go hard on the rowing machine and lift some heavy weights, or I might just put the 2 leashes on my 2 dogs and go for a walk.
Mm.
But I put on the shoes because that is my hour to take some time for me,
Mhm.
away from the husband and the kids and the business and everything else. But it is, okay, what is my body asking for? Did I get enough sleep last night? Where's my
Mhm.
stress level? Where are my hormones? Because I want to talk about hormones and how they are going to affect your results working out and
Yeah.
exercising. I mean,
Yeah.
if you don't have the right hormonal balance, you're never going to get to where you want to go. Just like if you don't have the right hormonal balance, the food isn't going to give you the body composition changes. I think people, especially women, don't look to the hormones and their profile of hormonal balance enough when it comes to results.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the cortisol, cortisol is either we've been using it, pumping out way too much, or maybe we've gotten to a point where we're low on cortisol. Whether it's high or it's low, that's an imbalance really compared to how it should be. So it's often measured at 4 different times during the course of the day. It should be high when we wake up. It should be naturally, if you didn't have to wake to an alarm, it would be cortisol that's waking us up. And then it begins to come down over the course of the day, and at 2 a.m., it should be the lowest of all day, right? So if you're high when you should be low or low when you should be high, either of those is problematic. You don't feel really good. But cortisol is a catabolic hormone, meaning it's breaking down muscle. So if that's what's going on, especially if you're in a situation where you're highly stressed, and that could be again fatigue and or just really wired, and you're craving and you're reaching for things that are not ideal, not optimal, and you're also elevating your insulin levels. That cortisol and insulin together relocate fat cells to the belly. They deposit more belly fat. They grow baby fat cells into big fat cells. They do all kinds of things that we don't want them to do. And meanwhile, you're in fat storage mode, and we can't both be in fat storage and fat burning. So your body will choose preservation, and it's impossible to gain muscle in that situation. So we really need to turn it around, and it's not like I'll push through. You can't. You have to remove the obstacle first. So we call it restore before more at Flipping 50. And I shared this with my coaching group this morning, and I said, I'm just going to share a lesson with you. I've been doing this. I treasure and highly value regular strength training, but for some reason my body is just really crying out not to this week. It's been, going for a walk sounds much better. The weather's been great. Maybe it's just more conducive, but something has just intuitively been telling me, don't go lift hard right now. Just, do a little bit more walking, and not only take the dog for a walk, but go for a walk by yourself later at your own pace. And so I've been leaning into that. And it's just I'm feeling better, but like you said, that water retention, where'd that come from? And I'm feeling like that's no longer with me, right? And it's just you've got to listen to what's going on. And so we can trigger optimal things like growth hormone and testosterone so that we can gain lean muscle. But you've got to remove the cortisol and the adrenal issues from being issues first. So,
Right.
first things first.
Yeah, and when your body is producing so much cortisol and it's so tapped out, it doesn't have the building blocks to create that awesome testosterone
Mhm.
and the growth hormone. And I went through this. So when I had was struggling to put some weight back on, I could feel my body stressed over it and the lack of muscle and the lack of testosterone because of the stress that I was experiencing. And with adrenal burnout, you are also going to go hypothyroid. I believe at least 8 out of 10 people, especially perimenopause or menopausal women, are suffering from hypothyroidism. And I did a big podcast on it yesterday. So make sure you listen to that if you're questioning whether you have it. But adrenal burnout will cause hypothyroidism because it's converting that T4 into reverse T3. And you're going to have the body aches, and you might have digestive issues. If you have digestive issues or constipation or even diarrhea, leaky gut, that stress is going to cause all of those things. Well, if you're not able to absorb the nutrients from the food, then how are you going to have the building blocks to build the muscle in the gym or lifting weights? So
Right.
they're all connected. And that, if you step on the scale and you're 3 pounds heavier the next day, that's not fat, right?
No, gosh.
That's inflammation.
Yeah.
That's inflammation. That's water retention. That's your body saying, okay, let's take a step back.
Mhm.
Let's look at what we're doing here. So what else do you see that is keeping women from their fitness results?
Well, I think, let's say, a woman who's not any longer in adrenal fatigue, who's actually ready to go and or hasn't gotten herself to that point where she's driven off the cliff yet. Probably a little bit too much time spent in cardio. I think we still default to that, got to burn calories. And I also think it's a mental state. I think we want to get back to that moment in time, maybe when we had hours to go spend in aerobics. I think we're trying to get back to, for me, it was like I used to go and love Sunday mornings. I would go do the Stairmaster all by myself at the gym. My husband was home with my little boy, and I would just read magazines, for an hour on the Stairmaster. I don't know how hard I worked, but I was, and I think we miss some of that time. So I think we default to aerobics because I want to get back to the way I used to feel. Women say that all the time.
Yeah.
And we really have to embrace the we're not going back. We're going to go forward, and you can feel that good or better. And to every woman who thinks she felt good, I want you to really unpack that, because I'll be the first to have confession here this morning, and that is, I taught a ton of aerobics classes. It's when we thought multiple classes a day was heroic. If you stepped in and took over for somebody who couldn't show up or called in sick, the boss loved you. And I would put my hand up. I can do that. Yeah, yeah. And I taught 2 to 4 classes a day, sometimes regularly. And, all of that really, I look back and I think, gosh, I consumed a lot of Diet Coke. And I think I went through McDonald's and got a soft serve vanilla cone a lot before. I was looking for the sugar. I was looking for something to lift me up. So I didn't really have the sustained energy.
Mm-mm.
So if you really unpack, how good did you really feel naturally?
Right.
Yeah.
And like we said, your body's smart. So if you're running 6 miles a day every day, your
Yeah.
body says, okay, she's going to run 6 miles today. I'm going to slow down that metabolic rate because she's not giving me enough food
Mm.
to burn during those 6 miles. And I mean, I was guilty. I've got 2 daughters that are rowers for competitive. They're high school and college levels, and they're working out 3 to 4 hours a day. And they'll come home and say, we did this on, we did 20-minute pieces times 3, which is like busting your booty for each second of those 60 minutes, right? And I would think to myself, that sounds so much fun, because I used to do it. But then I know I can't. I'm no longer a teenager. I can't do what they did, even though I did it when I was a teenager. And I'm not meant to compete with my daughters. I'm in
Truth.
a different state of life, right?
Mhm.
And they also can build muscle much more easily with less protein. That is something that women don't realize,
Yeah.
is that the older you get, you actually need more because your digestion and breakdown and usage of those amino acids is less. And I fear women's prognosis because I will go out to dinner with friends and they're eating these vegan salads and have maybe a bite of the protein, where I'm like, okay, let me have your protein and I'll have mine too, because I know how important it is. And that way you're also maintaining that muscle mass, and that cortisol can't eat away at it, because that cortisol is going to, like you said, eat away at your muscle and build that fat storage.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, if you're listening to this and you're in your 30s or your 40s, or you have a daughter who is, I mean, now's the time to share that actually, right? So it's like putting it in the bank. We
Yeah.
want them to we want 'em to build that muscle now, get in the gym, get the protein, begin nailing that. And then the reality that yes, if you're 60, you need more protein than you did when you were 50. You need more 50 than you did when you were 40. And the comparison, and unfortunately, this is on meals, and we're probably preaching here to a female audience, but know that if it's true for males, it is even more true for females because we have less muscle mass to begin with, because we create bodies, or new bodies, new life, y'all, so we have a little bit more fat. But the comparison of, say, what's true for a 20-year-old male versus a 70-year-old male, they gave them comparable strength training workouts, meaning they weren't picking up the same weight, but by percentages and intensity, the workout was equally as hard. And they looked at what did it take post workout to create the same muscle protein synthesis in protein. And it took 20 grams of protein for the young male. It took 40 for the older male to achieve exactly the same muscle protein synthesis level. The exciting part is we can do it. We can do it as well as we were younger if we bump up the protein, and we we don't pick up the pink dumbbells. That's not what we do. We pick up something that's heavy. You have to earn it. You have to walk your way up progressively. We don't start you anywhere where it would be harmful. But we do want you to find, on a joint by joint basis, what can you lift safely, as heavy as possible.
Right. And
Yeah.
this brings up arthritis and joint pain
Yeah.
and some things that will actually cause women to not work out, right? And
Mhm.
it's this vicious cycle, because then you're not working out and then you're weakening your bones and your joints even more.
Yeah.
And so that's where you need to look into diet and lowering the anti or the inflammatory foods. And unfortunately, what we are seeing because of the spike protein right now is that you've got 5 disruptors that are causing issues with food. And that's the sulfur vegetables, which we always thought were healthy: the broccoli, the cauliflower, the cabbage. That can back up the liver. That's going to cause inflammation in the body. You've got the oxalates, chocolate, unfortunately, but not so much as the spinach and the almonds and kale. Okay, that's going to cause slow thyroid. That's going to cause arthritis and joint pain. Then you've got the fat malabsorption. So if our livers are backed up, we can't process as much fat as we used to, and most people aren't. So most people wouldn't be able to do a high fat ketogenic diet because they can't break down those fats. Then you've got the wrong proteins, those amyloids that we've talked about in the chicken and conventional beef. Those amyloids are feeding the spike protein, and the spike protein is causing more amyloids to be created in the body, causing leaky gut and gut pathogens and disrupting a whole bunch of things. But then there's one more, Deborah, and that's histamines. And I've
Mm.
never had an issue with allergies or histamine response. I now am, because of the wonderful gift of the spike protein. So those histamines are going to cause allergies and inflammation in the body. So unfortunately, we have to be more careful with our diet to give us the fuel that is not going to cause leaky gut, so that we can actually absorb our nutrients to feed our muscles and give us energy to do the workout and support our hormones and support our adrenals. And so it's this it's not easy, right? It's not
Right.
easy
To
as we get
juggle.
older,
Yeah.
and it's overwhelming. And I understand all of that. So with all of that being said, you've got women that are saying, okay, well, I guess I need to work out a little more, but I need to do it so that I'm not stressing my body. Where do they start?
Mm. If you think about an equilateral triangle, then I want to come back to histamine. So don't let me forget that. Because I think we should speak to that a little bit about where does exercise play out in the positive or negative role in that. Um, so I think everybody first just needs to be moving every day, we are both sitting right now, right? So we're talking about exercise, but we're sitting. I mean, this is so common. I do a podcast. I sit while I do the podcast. I mean, how silly is this? But that is life in our, world. Everything has become so automated and we're virtually connected. I don't even have to walk to your house, to say, I wanted to tell you something. So we have to, I think, substitute movement and it's walking or it's your equivalent of walking. So if you can't walk because of an ankle, a knee, or a hip, what is your equivalent? Is it your elliptical? Is it a bicycle? Is it a rowing machine? Is it getting in a swimming pool? But you need some substitute that you can do readily, easily accessible. And there's no obstacles to getting there on a daily basis. So that's first. And I think, 30 minutes, no contest. I mean, there is no reason why you wouldn't. Just like brushing your teeth, it's just a given. I do this. Get a dog, that'll help, right? But this is really important, and it is more important than even just the movement for movement's sake. I mean, blood sugar control is fantastic from walking, fantastic. And how you do it, there are no wrong answers. Everybody wins. Everybody. So you can break it into 10 minutes and walk after meals. You can do it in 30 or 45 minutes. You can walk at your own self-selected pace. You can try and walk briskly. Everything helps. Every every bit of it. You choose. The only thing that wouldn't choose, if you are 10 minutes out and you still feel like I'm so tired, turn around and go back home because today is not the day. But, that is probably your body fighting something. But ordinarily, endorphins will kick in and you will feel better. Most people don't finish a walk saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry I did that." They're glad they did. So that's your base of foundation. Don't let anything take that away from you. And then I think strength training comes next. We high prioritize strength training. And that doesn't mean we do it often and every day because it's so good. We need it twice, at least twice weekly. Some people prefer to do it 3 times. I prefer to do a total body workout and do it twice and then potentially another total body workout that might be more functional, and that is yoga. Yoga is it's body weight. You're lowering and pushing up indirectly, lots of balance. You're doing one-legged things, and we don't do a lot of that in traditional exercises where we're doing more linear work. So it's a great complement. But twice weekly strength training might be Monday and Thursday. Some people can get away with doing 3 days a week, like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But for some older adults and starting as young as 40, we need more recovery time to benefit from the exercise because the muscle breakdown is happening at a faster rate than muscle protein synthesis. And we're not as resilient, at 40 as we were at 20, at 50, and at 60. That's even more true. Just takes a little more time. And we're not saying you can't be as fit. We're saying you'll be more fit if you're totally recovered before you come at that again. And we're not saying sit on the couch to recover. We want you moving. You can do other things on those day off. Just don't do the weights again. So those are high priority things, and then plan the rest of your work around them. If you can tolerate high intensity interval training, I would say for women in perimenopause, if you can tolerate it, because as things are volatile, might not be sleeping as well. You may be somebody who has hot flashes or night sweats. Let's not even ever say to somebody, this is how you'll know you're in menopause. I really despise those memes that set you up to think you are going to have this because not everybody does. It's not always going to be awful. You might coast right through. So hold that out there like that's going to be you. But if you can, twice weekly will help you maintain probably a better body composition. But again, if you're pushing through and exhausted trying to check that box, it doesn't work the same for you. It won't work. You're better off walking or doing yoga and recovering and restoring. So, high intensity interval training could come up in frequency post menopause because now you don't have this volatility of your hormones. You've stabilized and you can keep that fast twitch muscle fiber, the agility, the reaction skills. And we need that fast twitch fiber for those reaction that's going to prevent from falls and allow us to do the things we love to do as well. So doing that can also help offset the loss of muscle that increases then the visceral belly fat. So HIIT is known to support with visceral belly fat. So is strength training. But we can't really manipulate the frequency of strength training, but we can with HIIT. So just remember this, if it's truly HIIT, it's short. Don't be an overachiever. This is where, start to end, it's 20 minutes and you're done.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can actually be a busy mom of 3 with a husband and elderly parents and all of these things in your life, but still fit in that 20-minute workout.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's something that I use that I know you use that I think a lot of women would benefit from, and that you have a power plate, I believe. I have a vibration machine, a different brand.
Yeah.
It's a Vibra therapy. I use it every single day.
Yeah.
And what is fantastic about it is when I have all of the energy in the world, I'm lifting my heavy weights on that machine. I'm doing push-ups on that machine. I'm doing leg lifts. I'm doing all of these things that are strengthening me, my muscles, but also my bone density,
Yeah.
right? And then take a month back when I was so nauseous I couldn't even think about lifting weights. I would get on that machine and I knew my lymphatic drainage was going to be improved. My osteoporosis risk was going to go down. And I was stimulating my muscles, even though I didn't really have the energy to work out. And I feel like that is a tool that a lot of women would love to have because it is a cheating way or a way to actually get more out of your
Amplify. Yeah. Yeah, and I think if you're living in a household with multiple people, like you've got girls at home, your spouse is at home, and I know a lot of women will say, can my husband use this? He's got arthritis or he's got, circulatory problems in his legs. I mean, actually it could be fantastic for them. I mean, they can literally sit beside it, put your feet on it. You can do that at the end of the day for more circulation and balance, so many great things. I am in a standstill with mine right now because I dropped a dog comb down it. So every time I turn it on, I hear this vibration of the metal and I can't figure out how to get it out.
I understand that. Mine was making a little too much noise and I had to fix it. So yeah, the other people in the household were not so keen on listening to the broken machine. I just had my earphones in, so I couldn't hear it. But
What are you talking about?
right, it is a great tool. You wanted to touch on histamine, so I want to make sure we get into that.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's is something that too few people know about. So first of all, do you want to talk about what foods trigger it for you and what somebody would want to avoid or
So
know that they were triggered by?
yeah,
Yeah.
so histamines they're a good thing. We need them. They're there for a reason, right? They can cause headaches, digestive issues, skin reactions. We always think of the hives and the itching or the rashes, but you can also have things going on the inside. You can have just fatigue, flushing, irregular heartbeat, abdominal pain, bloating, diarrhea, nausea, all of this stuff. Okay, migraines. We were talking about migraines earlier.
Mhm.
It could be a trigger for migraines and dizziness, anxiety. Okay, so what are the foods? Alcohol, Fermented foods. Here we think fermented foods are so good for us. Fermented foods could be overpopulating the gut with the wrong bacteria, and they also are high histamine. Aged cheeses, aged foods, fish and shellfish. I love fish. I eat my fish with my histamine digest enzymes to counteract the histamine reaction. Bone broth. People are thinking bone broth is so healthy. Bone broth is full of high histamine. Dairy, grains, avocado, tomatoes, soy, eggplant, oranges, strawberries, and the vinegars. So those are the highest in the histamines. And then that spike protein is causing an increase in histamine because there's this dysregulation of the histamine receptor gene that leads to the high histamine and exaggerated inflammatory response. And this triggers insulin imbalance, and that it triggers a chronic cortisol release. Here we are talking about stress and insulin that are fat storing hormones. But if we've got more histamine going on away from the brownie that we're eating, we're storing fat. And then also, as the spike protein turns on the histamine receptor gene, it intersects with that sulfation pathway and the oxalate metabolism pathway. So there are the sulfur foods and the oxalate foods that we talked about. And then GABA gets disrupted. GABA is our stress calming hormone. So if it's disrupting GABA, then guess what's going up? Our perceived stress, which is causing cortisol to go up even more, and insulin, and we're not even eating the brownie, and we're getting this fat weight, right? So there's a whole bunch of things that are going on with this histamine and the spike protein.
Yeah, and as far as exercise goes, with histamine or mast cell activation, exercise can actually trigger it and make it worse. So, doing things like the power plate, ironically, or using a rebounder, lower level but lymphatic stimulation types of things may be better for you than for, going all out trying to do hit. So moving, yes, but being careful that you're not overdoing, because during a flare, with histamine issues, exercise can trigger it and make it worse. So you just have to look at, healthy things for someone that's healthy work. Something healthy doesn't necessarily work in the situation where you're not feeling well or 100%. So we can all identify with that easily. If we say, okay, if you had the stomach flu, we wouldn't feed you the healthiest meal in the world. That's not even going to sound good.
Right. So this morning I was talking to my mom, who has had a pelvis injury from falling off a horse. And because of that, she's no longer as active as she used to be, but she's never had any weight problems or health issues. So not a supplement taker, could eat all the sugar she wanted, but now her health is different, right? So this morning I was telling her, okay, we've got to figure out how to get your heart rate up because you are not doing any cardio, and she's got high blood pressure. And I gave her one idea. She goes, I'm overwhelmed. I can't do that. I said, well, you're going to see your physical therapist. Will you please tell that lady that it's her job to tell you to do something for cardio, because you're not going to listen to me and you don't have your own internal motivation to do it, right? Why am I bringing this up? Debra is the person for coaching you and keeping you accountable for your physical health. And so I would love to talk about your Flipping 50 Menopause Fitness Specialist program and why women need you. I mean, you are the person taking the physical aspect for all of my listeners that all are listening to me for supplements and diet.
And in the specialist program, we're actually training additional people to go out and do this. In fact, the call I was on just before we got off was a woman who, feels like this is her calling. She's actually retired from her corporate position young, and she's, but I'm not done yet. And I feel like I have so much more to give, and I've learned so much from you, and I want to do this. But we need a generation. We need this to be the generation that changes the way everyone goes through menopause. And I think menopause and the word and the term is all having a moment, and I'm not sure I'm in love with the direction it's going, because we seem only to be talking about the problems and not about the fact that, there are some proactive ways through exercise, diet, lifestyle that we can actually be changing the experience. And we know more about bioidentical hormone replacement than we ever have before. So we know whether it's a viable thing that you want to look at. We know risk reward ratio of that so much better than we ever did before. We have lots of possibilities. Many of them are really free. They're just making different choices when you're at the grocery store, making choices about how you'll spend your activity time. So I think the big piece is, if you're not in a program, and you're not in a program specifically built for women in midlife, I think that's where we get in trouble. You can go to a gym and you can hire a personal trainer, but whether it's medicine, a doctor has, less than 2 hours of nutrition training in their entire 8 year of, residency. They have less than that in terms of exercise training. So when they say go walk, it's because it's safe and you won't sue them for doing it. I mean, really, no offense to our doctors, but, they don't know a lot unless they're really into it themselves. And that's probably how they picked it up. And then there's personal trainers. So I taught at a university for 15 years, majors in exercise science, who either wanted to be fitness professionals, wanted to own their own studio, wanted to be athletic trainers or coaches. And some of them were pre PT or pre med, but nowhere in their core coursework. And I saw them all the way through. Did we ever talk to them about menopause? Nothing. Medical doctors say they never got taught, never
Wow.
mentioned about menopause. So it's not just OBGYNs who need that. Orthopedic people need it because women in midlife are getting injured more frequently due to the changes in hormones and not knowing early enough to change their exercise and how that will affect them. So you really need to choose wisely what you do and who you do it with. So if a virtual program is appealing to you, we're built for women in midlife, women in menopause or beyond it who want to change their lives. And I will tell you, we have women who are not quite 40 yet asking if they can still be in. And I spoke with a woman who's 80 the other day. And she's the oldest now that I know of in our, she was lovely. And so we've got goals.
Amazing. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. I love it. So we are out of time, Deborah. I always love having you on and talking to you. You're just a light. And so thank you for all the work you're doing. And where can people find you?
Flipping50.com, all words spelled out. On social, we're at Flipping50 TV, Flipping50 TV.
I love your posts because it gives me inspiration on different exercises to do because you got to change it up. Remember, we need to confuse the body, right? You can't
Right.
just do the same thing over and over again. So thank you, Deborah, and thank you everyone else for joining us today. If
Thank
I can
you.
help you with your health issues and your supplements and diet, you can contact me directly through the website, sarabantahealth.com. Happy to put together a protocol for you. Join the free group coaching with the link below. There is no downside. It's all free. I teach you on a daily basis with tips and tools to enhance your health, and you will be a part of an amazing like-minded group to support you on your journey, in addition to truly taking control of your health. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram under Accelerated Health Products, across over 100 channels under Accelerated Health TV and Radio Show. And as I said, my goal is to reach everyone on earth with eyes to see and ears to hear my message of healing. So please help me with that goal. Share this podcast with a few of your friends who need Deborah's help and my help. And join us every week, Mondays at 2 p.m. Pacific, Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific, and Thursdays. And you can find us the supplements that we mentioned at sarabantahealth.com. Use coupon WELCOME10 for 10% off site-wide. Thanks again for joining us here, and have a great week.